What's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of Family by Heart. I'm here with my trusted companion, Brandon. What's going on today, bud? How are you?
Doing good. Happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Absolutely. Good note, man. You're okay. You're earning the points that I'm missing out on. That's great. But that's why you're here, is to back me up. I appreciate it. But I'm very excited for today's episode because Family by Heart really started as kind of a result of my wife Leanne and my journey through infertility, foster care, and then adoption. So foster care was a really big part of seasons 1 and a bit of season 2. But there was a certain individual that wrote an amazing book, with us being a multiracial family, where we were kind of nervous about, okay, how do us white parents talk to about the culture and the background for our beautiful black kids? How do we talk to them about that and answer their questions? And I came across, from some of the context I had in the foster community, came across this book. It was the Black Foster Youth Handbook, and it was written by the wonderful Angela Quijada Banks. And that's our guest today. And not only is she the author of that fantastic book, but she's also a speaker and advocate, as well as a holistic health coach. And I'm just excited to have her on. Angela, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. This was a long time coming, so I'm glad we are finally able to have a conversation and get connected.
Absolutely. It has been a long time coming. When I first read your book, I feel like it was probably 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
I read it, and I was messaging you as I was reading along on Instagram, just like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Like, this is such a great book. I got to have it on the podcast. And like, absolutely. And then we all have things going in lives, and time went by, but here we are now. So a long time coming, much like you said. So first, we'd like to start off the episodes with a little bit of icebreaker. And our most common question is, what would those closest to you say about you? And what's a little known fact or guilty pleasure of yours that people wouldn't know about you?
People would say about me that, well, specifically my husband would say that I'm very sweet and way too nice. But I'm working on that as well. And my family, my friends would say that I'm really goofy, and I have a heart of gold once you get to know me. So I would say that. And then my guilty pleasure, it's hard to say. I feel like, I don't know. I love playing with my cats. I have 2 cats,
There you go.
Panther and Mr. Fluffy. We also call him Yaron because since he was like a little fluff ball, he literally cries, and that's how he communicates. There's so many different ways that cats communicate. They meow, they like chirp. There's like different things, and he cries. So we call him Yaron. I would say that's one of my things, but also probably just like Oreo cookie ice cream. It's great.
There you go. What's favorite flavor ice cream?
My favorite flavor, it was Oreo cookie, but I've been liking just like plain chocolate recently.
Any toppings? Do you have toppings on the chocolate, or just eat it just plain chocolate?
Probably pieces of brownies and
Okay.
M&Ms.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I was kind of going through your Instagram and doing some research on you, I've seen that you've done like a lot of different types of public speaking, as far as like forums and stuff like that. Like, I've noticed you on some very impressive panels. I saw you talking about that you did a commencement during COVID.
Yeah.
What forum do you enjoy the most as far as public speaking?
I love this question. You guys are awesome. It's really like intimate, small groups and having a conversation more than like talking at people. I hate hearing my own voice. So I love talking with people and like seeing the transformation, like in coaching sessions or training sessions, workshops. That's my jam. Keynotes, that's not my jam. I'll do it if, the right people ask me, but that's not my favorite thing. I don't like talking by myself for like 45 to an hour.
So standing in front of a big screen with like a PowerPoint going and everything like that, like that's not what you're looking to do.
If
You had a
I'm
choice.
having like,
You had a choice. Yeah.
yeah, and if I'm like interacting with the audience, if I'm interacting with people, then absolutely. But if I'm just talking at them, like I hate that.
Okay.
Actually hate that. Yeah.
So I'm sure that there's a lot of variables when you're doing some of the speeches and panels and interactions and everything like that. What's the biggest like debacle that happened during one of your pieces?
The biggest thing, let's
Did you
see.
have the power go out or anything like a storm or anything crazy?
Actually, one time, one of the audience members shouted that they really had to use the bathroom, but it was like, I really had the shit, and I was like, wow, that's some passion behind that. I hope you get to where you're going. You know,
Yeah,
so.
really, really. Well, Dustin went right before we started it, so we should be good.
Is there a camera did I have this camera pointing in a different direction? Like, oh my goodness. I
And
got
then
to where I was going though. I got to where I was going. So
that's
And
all
that's
that
all that
matters.
matters. Yeah, see?
and I filed my paperwork. So
Just use some tact next time. Don't announce it. Like, just fly under the radar.
you're the one that pointed it out. You're the one that pointed it out, man.
Sorry, my bad, my bad. Um, so then I also noticed a quote that really kind of caught my attention. Right? I mean, it's easy to scroll through Instagram, whatever, but sometimes things will, for whatever reason, kind of hit a note for you. And you had a post that said that every person deserves a family that they cannot age out of. Now, can you explain this quote a little bit more and kind of what your kind of meaning behind it is?
Yeah. So, well, obviously, I was in foster care. So, I thought a lot about different things that were presented to me, like, do you want to get adopted? And I was like 16, 17. And at the time, I didn't want to get adopted because I thought that I would be betraying my birth family, although my birth family wasn't like present for me or, caring for me in the way that was positive and helpful. So I really struggled with that. And the only solid supports that I had were interconnected with my foster care experience. So my social worker, my CASA, my foster parent. And as soon as I did get out of foster care, all those relationships, because they were transactional, unfortunately,
Hmm.
stayed as that. And so the relationships ended as soon as I was out of foster care, which left me feeling very alone, very isolated. And I had to figure out, what is my next step? And I mean, if I had a lot of failed relationships as my foundation, it was really hard to picture successful relationships. It was really hard to understand, like, what is a loving relationship? So then I ended up, in a not great romantic relationship and still trying to figure out, like, how do I connect with other people in a deeper, long term way? And that also goes to like my life before foster care. Before foster care, I had been moving like every 3 to 6 months because my
Mm-hmm.
parents were moving every 3 to 6 months. So I didn't understand how to cultivate a long term relationship. And it
Mm.
really, that was really hard for me. And I really struggled with like this idea of family because I always wanted that and I valued that. However, I didn't understand how to cultivate that and like have that ongoing. So that quote is really just about like, everyone deserves to feel loved and to feel like they belong and that they have a family. They have this deep connect with people that they know that even after they turn 18 or however age 21 when they age out of foster
Mm-hmm.
care, they have that solid support system.
Yeah, kind of the unconditional relationship, the family, like, the family by heart. And it's, so early, it sounds like your relationships were kind of, they had a beginning and they had an end.
Yeah,
And really the long term, is where the quote comes from. Okay.
yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, and that leads us right into the fact that, again, it is May, which is Foster Care Awareness Month, and you wrote the Black Foster Youth Handbook. How old were you when you wrote this? And I know you are actually getting ready to update it for 2025. I believe you said it. You're revising
Yeah.
it, updating it. So how old were you when you wrote originally, and what's going to be a little bit different with the revisions?
Yeah, so I started writing in 2020 during the pandemic. I was 20. Um, and I had a little bit of time in between my foster care experience, but was very much angry, sad, and still trying to like piece together my identity, my experiences, um, and also my current reality through the lens of still being in pain, still,
Mm-hmm.
going through all that trauma. So the reason why I want to revise it is because I'm in a different space now. Now I'm 20. I just turned 28 in April, and it's been 5 years since I first wrote it. And so many things have shifted and changed, and I think I'm in a more like healed aspect of looking back at my experience and even looking back at what I wrote in my book. Although many people have deemed it very helpful, um, I just think that I can update some of those ideologies that I believed to be true at the time
Mm-hmm.
to now on more so where I'm at, and also kind of closing the loops on some of those experiences. Even in the opening of the book, I talk about an experience with my uncle, and he was the first placement I was in before actually foster care. I went to kinship care, and unfortunately, that kinship care failed for multiple reasons. And in the end of the book, I don't ever like talk about what happened, and that's only because it wasn't written yet in real life, right? It did nothing
Right.
really happen. But then we actually ended up reconciling, and he actually apologized to me. And like, it's been like a whole, full circle thing. And that's happened in multiple things that I've talked about in my book from different people that I've talked about. And also, even though I didn't name any names, and also different experiences. So I'd really love to show that closed loop. Like, how did I kind of facilitate that? And how was I able to be open about that? And forgiveness is a really huge thing to me. And I understand that, people are humans and we can do really messed up things, but also I really believe in the opportunity to grow and change. So that's kind of like, I think, a big piece of what you'll see in the revised version.
Now, is there a reason you decided to go revisal instead of just writing a whole nother book, like a continuation of like 5 years later? Because I know you'll see a lot of authors will do that. They'll sometimes just revise instead of doing a revision. They'll write a brand new book and maybe clean up some of that stuff they had before,
Yeah.
or just say, well, that's where it was then. This is my life now. Like, is there a certain reason why you're saying you want to go back and revise it versus just writing a whole new book?
Yeah, so it is going to be like a new edition. So I'm revising, but it's a new edition. As far as like a second, that for me, that's a whole other book. And
Mm-hmm.
I would love to write that in collaboration with other folks that have gone through the foster care experience as well. So I think it's more so like writer's choice type of thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
did I want to add more to this or make a whole other book? And I realized the next book related to foster care, because I currently have the Black Foster Youth Handbook and the I Am Success Workbook. But the next one is like, I envision that me like post 30
Mm-hmm.
and having kids. I'm married and I want to have kids. So I feel like once I have kids, I'm able to close that own loop and
Mm-hmm.
talk about that as well. Yeah.
Gotcha. You just mentioned the I Am Success handbook. There was a part in the Black Foster Youth Handbook where you talked about changing those questions of "Am I" to the affirmations of "I am." Can you tell us a little bit about that transition there in the book and what the I Am Success workbook is kind of all about?
Yeah. So with those particular questions, or with that particular mindset shift, it was really coming from me really issues with, I would say, debilitating anxiety. So just like really intense anxiety as a kid, that kind of just was created more so like a feeling and also a voice that was created, I think, through my childhood of just so much like self-talk
Mm-hmm.
and negative representation of relationships, ways of being, that pretty much almost everything gave me anxiety, which is not a fun time in just
Mm-hmm.
day to day life. So it was something I was offering to readers to think about instead of like all the self doubt of am I, to like, what are you? Affirm that for yourself and think about that through I am instead of, questioning everything about who you
Mm-hmm.
are. Like, am I a good person? I am a good person. And if you are, what does a good person reflect? And I know that that's a really big aspect for a lot of youth in foster care and youth who are adopted. They have that question of do I come from good? Do I come from,
Mm-hmm.
versus good versus an evil
Mm-hmm.
source? And something that I really battled with for a long time. And thanks to therapy and also my husband and a lot of amazing people, I no longer deal with that. But I mean, it definitely comes sometimes out of nowhere, different self doubt or feelings of anxiety. So, yeah.
So you had mentioned dealing with some significant anxiety, and I feel like that's been more common in youth and adolescents at this point lately. And, I've heard some people saying that, it kind of rose up from, as a result of the pandemic and people being more isolated and moving to social media more and just like sometimes the relentless criticism on people. Do you feel that, it has been something that the anxiety in youth and adolescents is something that has increased, or do you think it's just more talked about and more people are more open about it now?
Yeah. With my experience with youth, and I've had a little bit of background of that. I've had experience in Washington, D.C. I used to be heavily in politics. So I used to be a councilwoman in Capitol Hill before I transitioned to specifically holistic health and healing. But I also worked with youth one on one and in groups for mentoring and coaching. But I would say definitely an uptick in anxiety in youth for sure. And it's really disheartening. Even the voice or that was created through my childhood from other people saying negative things to me. I think we also, with social media, have not really direct voices to us or people we know. It could be our secondhand trauma of seeing how someone else who is showing up authentically and very courageously or confidently online and people tearing them down in the comments. That can
Mm-hmm.
give someone about or a youth anxiety about, well, I resonate with this person and how they're showing up. If I really show who I really am and how, my quirks and weirdness, then I'm going to get, tore down and
Yep.
people are going to say these different
Mm-hmm.
things about me. Or not even say, they're going to think these different things, but because I've read these different comments and how other people are reacting, now I'm not going to like do that. I'm going to be more so a shell of myself because that's safer.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I do unfortunately think that with the uptick of social media and also COVID, that has definitely caused more anxiety.
Now, it seemed a large part of your story in the book had you bounce around and almost jaded towards adults that were involved in your different placements. But yet, one of the things I love about your book is that some of your exercise at the end of each lesson you had in there, you suggest the reader, presumably a foster youth, share and complete the exercise with their safe adult. Can you share how you got past that jaded feeling, or maybe how the foster youth should find their safe and trusted adult?
Yeah. So the first part of the question, how to get past that? Well, that was really hard. I think it's more than like one day someone tells you, "Hey, like we're all human." It's very much like you go through your own experience as a human and you make your own mistakes and you somehow are around adults that also tell you that it's okay or they don't react so abrasively or violently and they give you grace or having peers that also don't react so abrasively and give you grace. And I think it's a very much a learned behavior. So that took me a lot of learned behaviors, a lot of learned tries. Again, credit to my husband because I know when we first got married, that was like 5 years ago when we first got married. I definitely would like speak to him how I used to be spoken to at times. And it just was a lot of like love and also redirection of that energy that I think made me shift my perspective again,
Mm-hmm.
even about those adults that I felt jaded by, I guess. And so that's one piece of that. And what was the second question?
How the fostered youth should find their safe and trusted adult. Because, again, a lot of these kids are bouncing around different houses and they're not having a lot of that continuity. The only thing that's continuous for them is the fact that they keep getting moved around. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
how do they find that safe adult to share these lessons with?
Yes. So a safe adult is going to be the adult that continuously shows up. The safe adult is going to be the one that you feel, I guess, safe with. I was trying to use a different word, but really it's the word safe.
It could be that simple,
Yeah. I also want to speak to youth though that may not have that compass where the word like that safe is easy to kind of point out.
Mm-hmm.
I would say those that continuously show up, listen to what is being said for what is actually being said versus the way you take it,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe go back into just giving it some time. So for instance, something that I worked on in therapy was sometimes when people would say something to me, I would want to think the best, but there was like a subconscious thing happening where I would take what someone said and be like offended somehow by something they said, or like I would also find reasons to not connect with them after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to, again, always having like very short-term relationships. So after so much time of having short-term relationships, even the relationships that want to be long-term, subconsciously we can still find ways to push them away, or find ways to create a reason as to why it is a good time to end that relationship. So I would say if you're really just starting, define what a safe adult is for you, yourself. And that's going to take, well, one, opening up to different adults, and two, starting to learn what a healthy relationship is in general. And I talk a lot about building and cultivating a healthy relationship with yourself, but also building and cultivating a relationship, not culting,
That's
cultivating a
different. That's a
relationship.
little bit
Yeah.
different.
It's
I
a
thought
whole
we were
other
maybe
thing.
changing. Thought we were changing the path a little bit there. Okay. All right.
Right. Yeah, but building and cultivating a relationship, with other people, and honestly, that's really what's going to get you through foster care and beyond, and in your life, is really to understand how to honor and value long-term relationships. And that's reading different books, that's real life interactions with people, and also with your peers. And a lot of it is trial and error. You might mess up a few times or a lot of times, and that's okay. There's like 7 billion people in the world. So, it's okay. You're going to find it at some point because that's your intention. So make the
Yep.
intention and take one step at a time.
And as far as that goes, with the safe, safe adult and everything like that, you advocate to have the youth that's in foster care ask the people that they are coming in contact with, why are they involved in foster care? And saying that, yeah, have you kind of found that sometimes people get into the foster care with like the best of intentions, and then down the road, it ends up changing, and their attitude towards it changes, or they kind of lose sight of why they got into it in the first place?
Yeah. And this is interesting because I was thinking about what how my previous self would have answered this question versus how I am now. So what I would say today is, yeah, definitely. I think I've met way more foster parents that are very passionate about wanting to support youth that are in this in between phase. And I think what's really difficult, I was just in New York City on a panel, and we had a foster parent come up, and she came to the mic to ask all of us authors who had lived experience in foster care basically what she should do. And in her case, she had a sibling group of 3, and she showed them so much love and took them on different outings. And she felt, what she described was, she definitely got very attached to them. And fortunately or unfortunately, still to be foreseen, basically her 3 sibling groups, they ended up going back to their family. And she literally burst into tears, sharing that they went back and she just didn't know what to do. And, what was the next step? How was she
Mm-hmm.
supposed to move on and then gain other youth and do the same thing? Like, how does she do that? and still be open. And so I would say that that's really, really tough, because obviously you want to open your heart to each youth that comes to your home, and knowing that you're giving all of you and you're being very present, you're showing love. And then very quickly, the youth could go to a different
Yep.
home or back home. And of course, you want to be happy for them if that's a positive, outcome.
Right.
In her case, the way she described it, she was very concerned that may not have been the best decision. And so I just think that it's an impossible ask, to ask families, for foster parents to open their homes and love so hard and deeply, then be willing to let go and do it again and again. I think that in my experience, I was definitely in the foster home of foster parents. I think at one point they definitely were very open, and then after a while, maybe to guard themselves, they became very closed. And
Yeah.
I think that affected me, and I'm sure it affected other youth that went through their homes. But looking back at that experience, I can definitely see how that can happen. And I think that's something that we should work toward, like systemically and as a community. Because we're all humans, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of love to give. That's a lot of patience and time and effort and relationship that's built, real relationships. And the best thing that I shared with her was that that I could say was that that person or those youth, they probably for the first time in their experience had just felt love, for the
Mm-hmm.
first time, that true love, like what that feels like to be loved. And that feeling of being loved can be a guiding light in all your experiences. It can be the strongest force to help you navigate so many different things, romantically, friendship wise, because relationship is really the deepest part of our human experience. That's where we really, grasp on to who we are as our identity.
Mm-hmm.
We decipher that in relationship. So to feel loved, deeply loved, and to know like you were yourself as a youth and someone really deeply loved you and cared about you, that is life changing in itself. And I don't know, what the outcome is going to be for those youth, but I know that that was definitely a shift for them from what she explained they had been through before. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would offer to other foster parents as well.
Yeah, I can kind of speak to that with our first placement we had for 7 weeks, little girl and a baby boy, 13-month-old girl and 3-week-old baby boy. And it was definitely tough, like, because I got more attached to the girl right away. Like, we just bonded, and she seemed to look more, have some animosity towards my wife,
Mm,
I think, as a result of her mom's relationship with
yeah.
her. And so, like, I remember the last week before she went back to her family, she was having nightmares, and the only time she would stay asleep was on my chest in our recliner, in our red chair.
Wow.
Um, so then I remember them going back to their family, and like the family was like, "Thank you so much. Like, we'd love to keep in contact with you," and they exchanged information with my wife, and we never heard from them. And in my
Mm,
mind, as a foster dad, I was so connected and cared for these girls, or for the girl and the boy, like just cared about them. And knowing that the only time she slept was on my chest, I just carried around this guilt with me for a long time, thinking like, okay, does she think I abandoned her now? Like, what's
mm,
she thinking? And because suddenly this person that she felt so safe with, that we go pick her up from daycare, and she just come running with her arms out to for me to pick her up and stuff, and I just carried around the guilt for so long. And then a therapist told me the same thing you said, is like, you got to remember, you gave them a new foundation of love that, much like babies feel in utero, they get the cortisol, the adrenaline, all the stuff that their mom is experiencing. And that's creating a baseline there. You're helping rewrite that baseline as a child, as a baby. And much like your husband has helped you rewrite your baseline of love and affection in those relationships and stuff. So I think the big thing is knowing that I was able to give them that baseline and just trusting that, okay, they know what it's like to feel loved and feel safe because we were able to provide that for them for 7 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and hope
Yeah.
that that's something that they carry on with them. And we only got one update from them ever, and as we bumped into their caseworker, and they told us that like, oh, they're doing good, everything's going well, stuff, and that's the only thing we've ever heard from them. And I go to like field trips. Like yesterday, my boys had a field trip to the Cleveland Zoo, and on Mondays the zoo is free to everyone in the Cuyahoga County. And knowing that those kids lived in the same county and stuff, like I couldn't help but look at
Mm,
some of those faces, like, okay, they would be around the same age. Like, are they,
yeah.
are these kids? So I still carry that with me, like every now and then and stuff, like just thinking about that. And like the girl, her birthday was on my wife and my anniversary and stuff. So just knowing those like dates, like
Mm,
they just pop up out of nowhere. And so it's like, still hits you at times, but
Yeah, constant
yeah.
reminders.
absolutely.
I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's again an impossible task because now you're grieving that relationship. And I do believe that, considering the impact that you've made, more than likely when they're old enough, they'll probably come looking to find you. Because I think that's I've met so many youth, and then also on the foster parent side, and also myself, where I think sometimes foster parents think that you're never going to see them again, but like we remember, we
Yeah.
remember, and
Yeah.
definitely circle back around. It might be some time because some healing has to
Yeah.
happen, some
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
know identity shifts and all that stuff, but we remember. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And like you said, there's definitely space where those families are, the foster parents are giving so much themselves. The ones that are doing it right there, they are getting attached and they are loving so strongly. And we were working with the Cleveland Angels. They talked about the fact that like 50% of foster homes close their door to the foster system within 1 year. And
Mm,
yet the number of kids going into the foster system is growing exponentially every year. And so it's just sad to think about. And that's why I think finding ways to support, even if you're not ready to be a foster parent yourself, finding ways to support like groups, Cleveland Angel, there's camps called Royal Family Kids Camp that take kids that are in the foster system, send them to a camp for a week and just show them nothing but love and support. Finding those things where, and being some sort of doing respite care for families, that foster families, where they
yes.
can get a break, because there is so much that comes with, no offense to you, but so much baggage from all the different relationships that come with the foster kids, that the foster parents are now taking that on, not just taking care of a kid, but they're taking on the extra baggage too, that
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
they need time to heal and recover as well.
Yeah, definitely. In the Black Foster Youth Handbook, I also included fostering success tips,
Hmm.
and it's little snippets of either like stories mixed with little questions,
Hmm.
or also I have like a contract, like contracts that can be created between the youth and the foster parent as well. So that relationship can continuously be nurtured, and again, more like core memories to build upon, the center of love, but also what are some other foundational skills that can be supported for the youth as they may transition out of your home.
Absolutely. Well, we could go on and on and on about your book, because believe me, I had like a bajillion questions about it. But you've also been doing a lot of other work in your speaking and your holistic health coaching as well, talking about helping people recover from their. Well, one of the things you said in your book was your approach on the dark, depressing feelings that came with self-sabotage. What was your approach there, and has it modified at all now as you receive more notoriety as an author and as a speaker in the foster care community?
Yeah, self sabotage. Man.
It's pretty common. A lot of people self sabotage. Everyone's your biggest critic.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
self sabotaging is it's it's prevalent. It's prevalent.
Yeah, I think that self sabotage for me didn't look like self sabotage at first.
hmm
I had to really like identify it, but it just looked like I am given an opportunity to work. That I was really focused in policy at the time. So I'll go with that example. And I wanted to be a congressional member until I learned that I actually hate politics. Um,
That's a good reason. That's a good reason to stop.
yeah.
Oh, there goes our next questions. Jeez.
Yeah. Cross off all the political questions. Cross them off.
But it looks like somebody is, well, a congressperson, their staffer is reaching out to me and they're saying, "Hey, like, we've seen your work. We have this opportunity." And my take was kind of going through a depressive episode. But that was something I really wanted to do, and I had the opportunity. And instead of thinking of ways to make it work, or thinking of questions to ask in order to support that goal, I automatically thought to myself, well, I'm already going through this thing, so I might as well, a depressive episode, so I might as well not do that either. And that kind of like, backs on, because then the goal that you had and you could have met it makes you feel bad about yourself because you didn't do that thing that you have a goal of doing. So then that kind of goes on. So someone else could give you a different opportunity for a different goal. And then you also sabotage that one with like, oh, I'm actually busy. And you may be busy, you may not be busy, but which busy is towards the goal that you wanted to achieve. So I think that also gets connected to the self-esteem and then anxiety, and those all kind of stack up and combine. And then before you know it, you could be in a situation where you don't even believe that you could do the original goal that you set out for in the first place. It just kind of spirals down. So where I'm at now with that is that I more so identify, if I'm self-sabotaging. I think that I sometimes have self-sabotaging thoughts, but it's more so I acknowledge it. I can name it, like when it's happening, and I'll be like, okay, cool, self-sabotage, I see you over there. But you're not going to be, messing up anything over here. And that is very different than having the opportunity to think about it and even write it out, like the question or the thought that comes to mind. One makes it tangible, but it also helps to decipher, like, is this self-sabotage or do I just not want to do it? Do I not want to do the goal anymore? And I think that's been really helpful for me, is just being able to do that, and also having conversations about the thing, whether that's a thought or a question, with other people, because then I'll really know whether I really want to do the thing or not, or if I'm sabotaging or not. I think having people, for instance, my dad, we have conversations whenever I have an opportunity or something, and he will tell me like, that's an amazing opportunity, all these different things. And then I might agree, or I might say like, oh, yeah, it is, but I don't really want to do it. Or I feel like having the conversation with someone else really helps to reflect whether or not I really want to do the thing, or if I am self-sabotaging, or am I really excited about it. I feel like those things all really help with like checking self-sabotage.
When I was younger, that I did a lot of self-sabotage without even knowing it. And like you said, as I kind of older and I became interested in self-reflection and everything like that, I started, like you said, I started realizing, okay, Brandon, this is the path that you're going down right now. Like right now, you would typically do this and you would self-sabotage, and this would lead to this. So you have to stop your mind from thinking about doing that. Because you know how this is going to end. Like, you've been down this path before. You've taken this route before. It doesn't end well. Just stop it now. Recognize it early and stop it now. And I'm big on a lot of, self-help quotes and things like that. And, some of the things that you've written and posted and things like that have really kind of, I've been able to relate to. And you have quoted before, it said, you don't need to be hyper productive to validate rest. I think that, we're talking about spiraling and self-sabotage and everything like that. And I think that when people are struggling, that they think, okay, I just need to work myself out of it. I need to, work
Yeah.
my fingers to the bone, and I just need to grind and grind and grind and grind and grind, right? And
Yep.
you end up not doing anything that you normally do for fun and things like that, and you just spiral, right? Because you just keep going and going and going until, because you almost feel like you don't deserve to rest.
Yeah.
And some of this is me speaking about, me in my past and currently and everything like that. Like, I'll get myself into that mindset. Okay, like last night, it was like, I don't know, 10:15, 10:30, and I was like, I don't even want to go to bed right now. I feel like I could be more productive today. So Brandon, just keep going. Find what else you could do today for the next hour and a half, until midnight, to be productive and by going to bed tonight. And
Yep.
it's just a spiral then, and then you wake up and then you start thinking about, the same thing. you know, I think it's hard to avoid that sometimes. But how can you help people to avoid that spiral, right? Avoid getting in that cyclical nature where it's just, I don't deserve rest, I don't deserve rest, and then it's like, I'm just exhausted, I can't even function. Just beat
Yeah.
down, mentally, physically, emotionally, everything like that.
Yeah. I think that, so first of all, I definitely still struggle with this. Not as much as I did before took my sabbatical. Before I took my sabbatical, I was, like any other entrepreneur, working 16, 18-hour days, 20-hour
Mhm.
days, in the grind, in the hustle culture, gotta
Mhm.
do all the things. Before I did my sabbatical, I was a part of, I literally counted, and this sounds insane, over 100. I literally didn't understand how that happened, how it escalated to that. But to that point, it's really about what really matters to you, to not
Mhm.
even start in the cycle again.
Yeah.
um, what really matters to you right now, and that might have shifted from when you first started that thing, that project, that business. What really matters? Does the sleep really matter? Or does the thing that you're saying needs to get done really matter more? Does it matter more for a short period of time? Does it matter more for the next year? Do you have a timeline on how long this is going to matter more than your sleep or
Mhm.
your hydration, your nutrition? Are you eating three
Mhm.
times a day? I feel like it really connects into all these different basics of our health,
Mhm.
and we will definitely, whether that's the fear of missing out of an opportunity or not feeling like we're optimizing our time, or we're not feeling like we're not performing to our best ability.
Mhm.
Like, I could always be doing more. I could always be doing better. I need to, like, even last night, and I caught myself, and that's why I say I still struggle with it. I took a nap. I think it was like 4 in the afternoon. My day started at like 4 a.m. So, I ended up crashing at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And I woke up around like 5:30, and I stayed up and was doing all different types of things. Next thing I know, it was like midnight. And then, similar to what you were saying, Brandon, I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and do this thing and this thing and this thing. Since I'm already up, I
Yep.
already got all the energy. I
Mm.
took a nap early, so I don't need to be, going back to sleep right away. And I was like, but I said I wanted to get up at 7. So how am I going to get up at 7 if I don't go to sleep right now? Because it's already midnight.
Mhm.
So, and for me, I'm really working on getting my sleep back on track. So I had to think in that moment, what matters more to me, my sleep or all these things that I literally can do later,
Yeah.
and there's no rush, and there's not a bear coming to attack me. There's no fight or flight needed right now.
Yeah.
To go and do the thing right now. Like, I can literally chill out. And I do feel like part of that, at least from my experience, was I'm already what would be considered, I guess, an overachiever. But then I read books like The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone
Mhm.
Mm.
and other books which tell you to like go even harder and go even faster.
Yep.
So I feel like those books are great for people that, maybe you're in a season you're not really doing much and you do feel like you're underperforming. You do feel like you're not really going to your highest level. But then for folks that you are doing that, you are doing the things that you're passionate about, you're living in your purpose, and you're doing enough, it's okay.
Mhm.
It can take that message, and then, like, if you're already going 100 times, you're gonna go 1,000 times. Like, where's the
Yeah.
where's the
Try
stop
to.
for
Try to.
family?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Where's the stop for
Yeah.
family? Where's the stop for family, like, and friends, and sleep and eating and taking care of your humanness? Like, we're just,
Hmm.
I feel like I got hyper focused on like my purpose, my impact, and it's like, yeah, and we're also so we kind of need to take care of
Yeah.
ourselves, or we're not going to be able to do that long term. We're
Yep.
going to crash. So yeah.
So kind of onto the same track that we were just on, the constant burnout, or not constant burnout, but avoiding burnout by constantly thinking that you aren't doing enough, that you could always do something. Another quote, and again, I told you I'm big on quotes, that I saw from you is that life isn't a race. You have time. There's no rush. I feel like we are in a society where everyone's looking to get to the next stage, the next this, the next that. So whether it be an adult that is looking to for their next job or their next stage in their career, or like my daughter is, her next stage, she's graduating high school this year, and she's
Whoop,
going to be
whoop.
starting in college. So it's like, just wanting to fast forward it. Like when you're 18 years old, you want to go to college, right? When you're 18, you want to be an adult, right? When you're an adult, you want to be a kid.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, so I want to finish high school and I want to go to college, and then I want to go to college, and then I want to get a job, and then after that I want this, and then there's family, or there's this, or there's this. There's kind of a progression that is like depicted to people right now, and it's constantly, okay, what are you doing to get to the next stage, and then the next stage, and then the next stage. What's your advice to, like that quote says, what is your advice to slow down, relax, not be in a rush?
Yeah, and I have the perfect shirt on for that. Breathe and
Breathe,
rest.
rest,
Yeah.
yes.
um so I will start off with saying that, the way I view society currently, I really don't believe that that's the way God intended the world to be. Like, I refer to it as the matrix, right?
Yeah.
What you're describing. What's the next thing? Whether you're in a 9 to 5, whether you're in a business owner, there's like this web of what we've created in this transactional society, right?
Mm-hmm.
This happened, you work and you clock in to do this thing, and hopefully you're saving, and hopefully you're investing, and hopefully all these things. And I feel like we really, as humans, have to get back to one, what really matters, but also, where are we really trying to go? Like, what is enough for us? What does it mean to be happy? I hear so many times, people my age, people older, people younger, always about, when I do this, I will be happy.
Yep.
And how can you be happy now? How can you be happy today with what you have, or with what you don't have? And I think, my different life experiences, although either severe and negatively severe or positively severe, have helped me to see, what really matters, which are the people in our lives that love and cherish us, and the people we love and cherish. Our purpose, what really wakes us up in the morning without an
Mm-hmm.
alarm clock. And if you haven't found that yet, maybe that's where you're starting. Your and what's the impact? What's the legacy that you want to create? But also, it could literally be that the world ends in the next 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I feel like we do have to have like this balance in, life is short, but also life is long. And am I happy with who I am, the lives that I've impacted in the world, and how I've shown up in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Would I be okay with that? And if you haven't, if you're not okay with that, then that's more so, I think, the thing that really matters most. But hustle culture, where it's like, we're going to get to the next thing. And, because I'm asked this question all the time too. And, I'm moving to Washington on Monday, and I'm in North Carolina now. And 2 weeks ago, my husband medically retired from the Marine Corps. And so everyone's asking us, what's next? What are you doing next? What's all the things? And we're like, we're going to spend time with each
Mm-hmm.
other. We're going to spend time with our family. Yeah, we have a whole long laundry list of things we want to do in life, but what really matters? What really matters to us? And, our family really matters to us. And each other really matter to us, and we've been in the grind of different things, and it's like that doesn't mean you don't have like seasons of being in a grind, but like I think we also have to remember that like none of that stuff as far as like your job matters more than your health. That doesn't matter more than your health. That doesn't matter more than your relationships. And I think also connecting with people that have gone through the extremes of like working their entire lives and talking with them, and they're like in their 60s and 70s, and the number one thing they tell me is, make time for your spouse, prioritize your time with your grandmother. So that's part of the reason I'm moving all the way to Washington, because that really matters to me, that I have memories with my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I would say is like go back to what really matters, because all the other superficial stuff, getting a Hermes bag, and that's your symbol of status,
Yep.
and whatever. It's not worth it in the end. If it's taking you away from spending time and building with your family, with your friends, with people that you care about for long periods of time, and you think and you're valuing that as happiness more than those relationships, your purpose, your health, then it's going to need, you might need to take a second look at that.
You got to recalibrate a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reprogram. Because,
Yeah, one of the first episode Brandon and I did together this season was actually talking about our priorities, and so like the 3 questions that we had for like how do you determine your priority was 1, what do I constantly think about? 2, how do I spend my money? And 3, how do I spend my time? And those 3, if you answer those 3 questions, that will give you your priority. And to build on top of that, there was also I don't know if you're familiar with Mind Valley at all.
Yeah.
So, I forget that guy. I feel bad forgetting his name, but he has the 3 MIQ, the 3 most important questions to ask yourself. And it's what experiences do I want to have? 2 is how do I want to grow? And 3, what kind of legacy or how do I want to contribute to the world? Stuff. So, and those are things that like you answer those 3 questions, list all those things down that you want. Stuff like what experiences do you want to have? Money's not a option. Stuff like or a hurdle to get over. How do you want to grow? How what do you want to leave behind? How do you want to contribute? And you make that list, answer that, and those things become like your manifestation guide and stuff. Like you look at that, and like next those things start coming to you and stuff. And like and those things, like I filled out the 3 MIQ, and a lot of them are like having to do with experiences, taking my kids to see different places, different like my oldest is a big fan of going to the zoo and everything. He loves animals, so I want to take him to the San Diego Zoo and all the best zoos in the world and stuff, and take them to learn more about their heritage, their culture and stuff. So there's a lot of things, but those 3 things, priority questions, the 3 MIQ, I think those 6 things can really help you with that recalibration that we're talking about.
Yeah, start recalibrating.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of recalibrating, we've kind of been talking about helping people like that are burning out and that need recalibration. Are there any typical signs that of burnout that we should be looking for, either within ourselves or maybe we notice that our spouse is burning out, or our best friend or a family member and stuff? I know my wife, she tends to overwhelm herself very easily because she works in children's ministry. And then what's the best thing to do to avoid, and the best thing to do if you are already in that burnout stage?
Yeah. So how do you recalibrate? No, but honestly, there's 3 signs that I think are very prevalent that a lot of people experience. So the first one is hating what you're currently doing. Like slowly the feeling of just like I hate this. I would say that's you slowly start. It doesn't necessarily come out full on I hate it. It's kind of more so like I'm really not liking this, and then it's like you're still doing it, so it's like something's wrong. And then full stop. I hate this. If you keep going. The second thing is like slowly losing the energy to even show up to do the thing. Kind of recognizing that you have energy to do everything else, but then when you come to do that thing, you don't have any energy to do it at all.
Yep. Your tank is empty. You don't have anything left.
Yep.
What'd you say?
Your tank is empty almost. You don't have anything left to kind of get
Yeah.
you to do the thing that you actually intended to do and wanted to do.
Yes.
Yep.
And then the third one, I would say, is like, it's pretty bad. You've been ignoring it for a very long time. You just feel fried. And
Yep.
you're fried. Your brain's fried. Your body's fried. You need some help to get out of it. Need some rest. But even rest, sleeping or napping isn't going to help if you're still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say those are like three things. So was the question how to prevent or how to recover?
Both.
Yeah, how to avoid and then how to heal from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you fail at preventing it, how do you get yourself out of it? Yeah.
Exactly. If I fail to ask the question correct the first time, how's Brandon help fill in the right way? So
Yeah, so I also start kind of like, so for me, I burnt out actually in 2021 the first time. That was like the level 1 symptom that I was talking about. But I was still going. I could feel it. I was like, starting to hate this, but this is what I do. Like, this is supposed to be for my purpose. Like, how do I hate it? Like, I got to just keep going.
Yeah.
So and the thing was like coaching, speaking, just showing up as a business owner. But the thing that burnt me out was actually it was a lot of things. But I would say one of the main things was my business grew really fast and I was trying to keep up. And I was trying to do all the things and wear all the hats. I was struggling with like intellectual property and being so passionate and sharing things that I probably shouldn't have shared without an NDA and my things that I shared in other places. So that was really fun to watch. That slowly kind of like worked at me because it's like, I'm being so genuine with these interactions and like what's happening.
Yeah.
So that kind of made me really sad and also slowly burnt out, as well as trying to like keep up with my business and other things happening. The other thing I would say, the third thing that led me to burnout was I didn't have enough things that were setting my soul on fire outside of work. I wasn't really focused on nurturing my personal relationships because I was so hyper focused on my impact and purpose. And when it was time to celebrate things, because I wasn't nurturing those relationships, I kind of felt like alone, really me and my husband. But, I just kind of felt like, well, what about all these other people, that I've been connected to, but I really wasn't nurturing those relationships. So prevention, nurture those relationships, because, when you are starting to feel that way, you'll have that connection to be able to go to different people and just be. You need people in your life to just, connect with you for just being yourself, not connect with you for being, Dustin, the host of the podcast, or, all the different accolades and things. You need people that just hang around with you just because you're yourself. And that genuinely prevents burnout for sure. The second thing is say yes. We have a culture, and we've been talking about this this entire podcast of go, 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 what's the next thing? And so that's what we internalize, right? I have to say yes to this opportunity. I'll never get it again. All this other type of stuff. Let me tell you something. It's all about the impact that you make when you show up. Because I've been gone. I was off social media. I took all my websites down. I literally made it so hard for anyone to reach out to me. And the amount of people, once I even shared that I was back, was alarming a little bit. Because I think, and the different opportunities that came up. And the truth is, depending on your impact, you can then have so much opportunity. It doesn't matter. There's no such thing as like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. You could have multiple once in a lifetime opportunities in your lifetime. And it doesn't, if you say no to one particular situation, that doesn't mean you're done forever and like you're never going to get another opportunity again. Like, that's not been my experience. That's not been several people's experience, where if you say yes to rest and no to another opportunity, once, twice, 10 times because it doesn't align with what your core values are, it doesn't mean that you're done now. Like, you're not, no one's ever going to reach out. No one's ever going to want to talk to you. Like, that's just a fallacy. So definitely saying yes less will prevent that from happening. And if you fail at those things and you end up being in a situation where you're in bed and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I got here, because you're so burnt out, the first thing I would say is get your rest, because your body's probably really going to need it. You've probably been in chronic stress mode, running yourself ragged, going back to back on all the yes opportunities. So get your physical rest, get back to the foundations. Are you hydrated? Are you sleeping well? Have you seen your doctor in a while? Maybe you need to talk to a therapist to really figure out the root as to why, you're going in hustle culture. What are you striving for? What is the point of all of it? And how do you want to show up in life moving forward, whether you're a professional or a business owner? How do you want to show up in your business? How do you want to show up at your job? And maybe you have to start from scratch. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just needed a couple of months to recalibrate.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And get back, not into the grind, but get back into your purpose and into your work. And you have to show up a different way, because again, we forget we're not right. So, we have to nurture ourselves and take care of ourselves and rely on our personal as well to say, hey, I need some help. I'm struggling. I'm in bed.
Yeah.
Turn on a good show for me so I can get out of bed and or come come hang out at the house for a little while, do some laughs.
There you go. All right. Well, it is again Foster Care Awareness Month. It is also Mental Health Awareness Month, and then in July is actually National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And I definitely wanted to bring that aspect up, as we are both, Brandon and I have both been advocates for taking care of your mental health, and we've been talking about avoiding burnout, avoiding the grind culture, and everything like that. But can you explain why there is such a need for additional mental health awareness month, especially one for minorities? Because I saw a statistic on that, and it was mind blowing to me, and I definitely felt the need to bring it up. And that was that less than one of every two African Americans practice mental health.
So specifically African Americans, we don't believe proverbial we. I don't believe that anymore, but we don't believe in mental health. So that's probably a huge barrier to seeking mental health. But I also speak for my my Hispanic side as well. We also don't believe that mental health exists either. So I mean, what? Trying to get my grandma to go to therapy? That's not happening. I think just believing that a thing that exists is difficult to share. Things like depression, things like suicide ideation, which I have experienced that other people really don't acknowledge that at all. Don't acknowledge suicide ideation as a thing. It's kind of like, you're being selfish. And then depression is like, just get up and go to work like everybody else. So I think that's like step one, is supporting minority, or I call it low wealth community, underrepresented community, to really learn that, or I guess accept that this is a real thing. Mental health is a real thing. We all experience it. We are all a part of the matrix. So we will be affected some way or another. And also there's people, psychiatrists, a good friend, a good family member that you can talk to if you ever have those experiences or thoughts. And then there's also a hotline. So I think that that's what makes it so important, is because like a lot of minorities, it's not embedded in the culture to even believe that mental health is a thing. But I would also say that kind of branches out even from, it can also just be the way a family operates, regardless of your nationality or ethnicity. It's just, sometimes it's embedded in our cultures, and we really are taught, like, just suck it up and keep going. There's so many different sayings that I know from my family that I've had to unlearn and try to decode. Like, okay, so when they said that, first of all, unlearn it, but then like, what exactly were they saying? Like, oh wow, Aunt such and such was like going through suicide ideation right then, and I didn't even know, because I was a kid. But they would never call it that. So I think for me, the biggest thing has been like, how do I educate myself on how to have even open up conversations about mental health with different folks from different backgrounds, so that way it doesn't sound so like you're pointing the finger, but maybe they need some help, and maybe that's the only conversation that they're going to have where they can be connected to some kind of resource.
I think that's very prevalent in males as well. Like,
Yeah,
suck it up, and
yeah, definitely.
Fine
My
then,
husband,
dude. Oh,
my
you weren't
husband is
talking to
in
me
the
right
Marine
now.
Corps.
Sorry. Sorry.
My husband's literally, he's been in the Marine Corps for 9 years. And so a lot of that, right? Like a lot of that, I'm going to do it on my own, all the things. So he's had his own unlearning. But
yeah,
I think that it's hard when also you have similar groups from where you come from, or people that look like you, whether it's, gender, ethnicity, or whatever. And they're also agreeing with, if you're the person that has that belief, and other people are agreeing with you that like, yeah, mental health doesn't exist, or like, yeah, you're a man, like you should be tough, like there you shouldn't be crying, like
Yep.
those types of things, and everybody else is agreeing. Going back to my slip up and saying cult, the cult mentality of like everybody believing that one thing, it can easily like influence you to just stay in it. Why do you need to change if such and such told me, like, let me call my boy such and such, they're gonna tell you exactly what I just said. So
Yep. It's that. You're right. It's this person supports what I said, so I must be right. And it's like you'll find that you have so much access to so many things. You can find one person that has the same belief as you, and then right there justifies it. Right? That, oh yeah, look, that person said it. Who is that person? I don't know. I've never heard of them before. Never seen them before. But they have the same ideology as me.
Yep,
It's
exactly.
it's able to. It's easy now to be able to support thoughts and ideologies that aren't necessarily
mainstream.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Angela, we do not want to have any of us get burned out anymore. We've enjoyed having you here for this conversation. Got so much great information out of you, great ideas on avoiding burnout and recalibrating, and we really appreciate your time being on and just being here. So thank you so much for coming on today.
I really appreciate this conversation and both of you guys. It's been really awesome, and I'm gonna have you guys on my podcast, and I'll tell you guys about that offline. But yeah,
we're absolutely come us in. But there you go. You have Angela was talking to us about recalibrating. Make sure you have your family, your support system there to support you and lead you through. Make sure they're helping you keep from getting burned out. Make sure you have those people that you trust and you feel safe around. You're here with us, listening to us, to your family by heart, and that just goes to show you. It doesn't matter how you came into a family, what your family nucleus looks like. We are born into our names, but we become family by heart. Till next time.